weekend trips all around the state to meet with parent groups to help get their clubs sorted. I had a little pamphlet, 39 pages, called A Little Help for My Friends, about a 12-game season outlined in terms of day-to-day practices. And effectively was just kind of the missionary, going from here to Spokane and Vancouver and all around the place. Family was always wondering, where are you going? Well, we're going to try to get soccer going. I think those first 2 or 3 years were simply missionary years. We all joined together. Nobody was vying for recognition. There was no push to be socially higher than the person next to you. We were all kind of pulling the same oars, and it just kind of opened and developed on its own.
When they were putting the franchise together, Cliff was really the only person any of us knew that had anything to do with soccer because of his bigness in the community.
Division II finals this past year, Cliff McCrath. And Cliff, can you believe the excitement here with a crowd of 30,000 plus expected for this game between the Sounders and the Timbers tonight? Isn't it something?
I'm trying awfully hard to believe it, Bruce. Some of these people have been here all day, of course, waiting to get in, and they've been in the stands at least 2 hours before game time, yelling and screaming and carrying banners. The air is electrified. I can't believe anything except World Championship right here tonight.
Some folks are just blessed with a sense of humor. Like SPU soccer coach Cliff McCrath, he promised his team if they won the national championship, he'd crawl from school all the way to the Space Needle, 3+ miles. Is he sane? He thinks so.
Yeah, I know. The rest of the world's nuts.
Actually, he didn't check to see if crawling was illegal, but he took one safety precaution just in case the police bothered him.
I brought a $50 bill in my back pocket just in case I got arrested.
First, it was up Queen Anne Hill, then a short rest for new tires, actually knee pads. Then I caught up with him, and we talked about it.
Why are you doing this? Integrity, insanity, a little bit of stupidity, and people ought to have more fun in life than sitting behind it and whistle all day long.
Who did you promise that you'd do this for?
22 of the ugliest looking soccer players I've ever seen in my life.
I'm glad. Do you regret it at all?
You bet. Absolutely. I regret it more than anything in my life.
You got another couple miles now before you're going to stop?
Get down here and crawl with me.
Get down there and crawl with you?
Come on, Andy.
Tell me why I should. Give me a good reason and maybe I will.
I'll tell you what. You don't have to crawl, but if you just cry a bit.
Cry? 3.5 hours later, McCrath finished his crawl at the Space Needle as promised. Exhausted, sore, but satisfied, until he remembered he also had to shave off his mustache. His fans saw to that, a small price to pay for a national championship. I'm Andy Nadell for Eyewitness Sports.
All kinds of people coming asking to learn about soccer. So bingo, the idea hit me, well, let's get him in one place. So we went up to Casey, which was owned by, still I think is owned by Seattle Pacific. And there's nothing but weeds, 5 foot high, you know, cat and nine-tail stuff. So we got a farmer to mow the hay and built a couple little makeshift goals and had 30 kids and 4 coaches. And then by the next year we had 10 weeks of 250 kids a week.
Welcome back to SoundersFC.com. You know him, that's Cliff McCrath. I'm Tony Ventrella. This is Nubs Nuggets. to come up with one nugget that covers both. But let's see what you can do.
Well, I think the nugget is that it's a little like the guy, and I kind of look at this in my own personal approach to everyday life. The guy that goes to the doctor and the doctor says, you only got 60 seconds to live. Well, some people fold the tent and that's it. The guys that really want to go into the competition step out of the office and they grab the first guy walking by and they say, you got a minute?
Please welcome to the stage our Master of Ceremonies, Erin Mayovsky, and our guest of honor, Cliff McCrath.
All right, Cliff's going to hang out for a little bit while we talk about him, but everyone, thank you so much for being here tonight. This is an honor to be here. I feel so privileged to be here in such a wide variety of soccer players from around the region and around the Pacific Northwest. It is a true treat, especially to stand on the stage with this guy and talk all about the wonderful things he has done in our community. So on behalf of Washington State Legends of Soccer, we want to welcome everyone to an evening with Cliff McCrath celebrating 50 years of Northwest Soccer Camp and 6 decades of being our very own Uncle Nubby. And this is going to be presented tonight by a very special group, TBW Law. I'm Erin Mayovsky, as introduced here, and I've been in this area for almost all my life. I've left off and on at times, but I've always come back home here, and this is just such a special place, the Emerald City. I grew up in Lake Forest Park, the LFP. Played soccer at Shore Lake. I started off when I was little playing for the Sabres, and I was coached by Teddy Metalis as well, but Trevor Rooney was my first coach, and then I jumped when I realized in 8th grade I need to be a little bit more competitive. It was fun, but it wasn't quite as competitive, so I jumped to a team called Team Score, and it was coached by Pat McNulty. Then I went to high school at Shorecrest High School, and one of my all-time favorite coaches, one of the best coaches I've ever had, he just was so inspirational, and he really was an advocate to me, is Teddy Metalis, and he's here tonight. Raise your hand, Teddy. 1992 state champs. Mindy Failer sitting next to him, involved in Shorecrest now, taking the team to the state titles as well. So we're really proud of our Shorecrest Scots here. But that led me, because of his advocacy and the group that he introduced me to run to the University of Washington and get introduced to Coach Dang Pavlovich, and later on meeting Leslie and Amy Griffin. So these are very influential people in our soccer community, and I feel so blessed and lucky to have known them from such a young age there. But for as long as I can remember, Cliff McCrath has been in our hearts. I've known about him. I went to a couple of his soccer camps. I didn't do the overnight ones because I was too scared. So I just did the daytime things here. But I did learn a lot from him. So we're excited to get this party going tonight. We've got a lot to get through, so we'll move through it. We're going to have some good laughs and some good times. So whether it's running Northwest Soccer Camp, like I said, or coaching the Seattle Pacific men, helping the original Sounders take root right here in Seattle, or just encouraging our soccer community to pass the vote to build what is now Lumen Field, where our Seattle Sounders are in the playoffs. Let's give a round of hand for that. With Brian Smitzer in the house tonight, we're off to a good start. We're excited here, but really this all goes back to what our soccer community is. Who started it? Who was involved? Who was passionate about it? A lot of you are here tonight, and that's why you're here, and I'm so proud to see all the tables full tonight. It's such a great community, and to be able to lean on this community and to see people come here tonight to celebrate Cliff is just amazing. So since 1970, Cliff had a raised platform for being a soccer missionary. As we heard in the video, he was always answered the call, and I think all of us today are better people because of Cliff. So thank you, Cliff. All right, so in a moment, we will hear from a number of speakers, both live and on video, about what Cliff has meant to them and our state of the soccer world here and our little community in the Northwest. But first, I'd like to introduce Ted Wacker, a principal in our title sponsor, TBW Law, We want to thank Ted and his staff for making this night possible and coming forward to get us all together to have an amazing night, some good wine, some good chat, some good food. So please welcome to the stage Ted Wacker.
Well, first of all, it's just an honor to be the title sponsor for this event, to honor Cliff McCrath. And for me, this is like a homecoming. I grew up here in Seattle, played soccer like Erin at Shore Lake Soccer Club, played on the Shore Lake Loggers, which then split off into the Shore Lake Splinters. That makes sense. When I was like 6 or 7, continued to play through the Shore Lake years, and then eventually went to Northwest Soccer Camp at age 12 with Cliff. The first time I met him, but of course, Cliff is a legend, and I was a defender in college, and somehow the Northwest Soccer Camp gave me the honor of being the MVP, offensive MVP. I don't know how that happened, but I'll take it. But yeah, later I ended up playing on Seattle United with Coach Scott Hayes for a number of years, and then I was coached by Rick Crudo, and played with a lot of Brian's younger brothers I used to play with in practices, and so for me this is a homecoming, and it's really a privilege to be a part of this. I later then went on to Shorecrest and really met my best friend, Mark Fowler, who's here at the table, and Mark, played at SPU for Cliff, and Mark played with a number of other players that I played with, Danny Machado, and played against David Wittrell and Scott Cairns. They all played at SPU. I was kind of the rebel. I was the first player to move on from Seattle. I wanted to play for Cliff, but maybe egotistical 17-year-old. I got a scholarship to play down in San Diego, and I thought, rain versus sun, I'm going to go to San Diego, and I played down there, and then, was the first Seattle player to go down to San Diego State, and then a number of Seattle players followed me. Kyle Whittemore, who's, kind of a legend in our days, and Rick Blubaugh and Eric Drab, who also played there, and I met them when I was at Northwest Soccer Camp at 12 years old. They were in the bunks right across from me, and then I ended up playing club and San Diego, and then Rick ended up, playing for the Tacoma Stars and professionally, and I'm still good friends with them. So this is about community. This is about, coming together to honor a legend, and I'm really just happy to be a part of this, and I'm happy to have this homecoming and have our firm be the lead sponsor of this event. It's really just an incredible moment for me in my life to come back and honor Cliff in this way. So with that, thank you very much, and let's enjoy the night. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted, so much for making this happen. It's going to be a great night. Okay, we also want to thank the Washington State Legends of Soccer. We want to thank a few sponsors, so bear with me as we run through this. We want to thank our presenting sponsors, Crossfire Premier, Gibson Burke LLC, Montlake Capital, Seattle Sounders and Seattle Reign, and Washington Youth Soccer. Now we want to thank our supporting sponsors, Charles Schwab, Georgetown Brewing, Mr. 99, and Tacoma Galaxy and Tacoma Stars. Thank you all for your financial support, which has made this whole evening possible. Also, we would like to thank our generous wine donors. Thank you so much. Ackley Wines of Seattle, Full Pole Wines of Seattle, Keystone Cellars of Iniat, and Viscon Cellars of West Seattle. A few more to get through here. Now, beyond our speakers, sponsors, and presenters this evening, we would also like to acknowledge some of the other folks joining us tonight. So first, family, Midge, Maggie McCrath Stiles, and Stacy McCrath Smith. Thank you so much for being here tonight over there. Next up, all of those from Cliff's adopted family. So the players from Seattle Pacific and the campers and staff from Northwest Soccer Camp. Thank you, too, for being here tonight. We also have from government, King County Council member Pete Von Reichbauer. Thank you for being in the house. And among those from the Sounders, we have them scattered out. I'll try to name just a few. Adrian Hanauer, Brian Smetzer, Craig Weibel, Wade Weber, and their staff. How about Tommy Dutra, Grant Clark? I'm sure there's more I'm missing. Sean's here. All right, so we also want to thank CEO of Seattle World Cup 2026, Peter Tomazawa. We are so excited for World Cup coming. We have so much to celebrate over the next couple of years. Some of Peter's staff is here, including Ann Kawasaki Romero, Leo Flor, Felipe Mendez, and Gary Wright in the house. The legendary Gary Wright. We've got a star-studded crew in here tonight. Okay, we're gonna keep going. From the rain, I see Maya Mendoza Ekstrom, Leslie Galmer, I'm not sure if she's in the house tonight. From the Public Stadium Authority, we have Chair Fred Mendoza. From Seattle Pacific, Kevin Sakuda and Arbry Boosie is here. And Dan Lepsey, and Cliff's longtime colleague, Doris Heritage. Okay, also, we got a few more. We'll get through this. Among our community legends, Jeff Stock, Lane Smith, Alan Hinton, Casey Keller, David Gillette, Jimmy McAllister, Bernie James, Pete Fewing, Roger Levesque, Gordon Lacey, Linda Veely, Scott Gibson, and Andy Dale. Almost through, guys. Here we go. And some of our long-distance travelers up from California, Marcus Zemer and Derek and Mary Armstrong. Thank you for traveling to be here tonight. All right, and finally, one of our scheduled speakers can't be with us tonight. That is Amy Griffin. She needed to travel to be out of town with family, but we want to thank her for her efforts in trying to be here. But we're sorry, and we will miss her, and we know we will catch up with Amy Griffin. All right, we're going to start the program here in a minute. But first, I just want to ask, how many of you, I'm assuming a lot of you, played soccer growing up? If you did, could you just stand up really quick? This is the 7th inning stretch. Just stand up. Okay, getting a little exercise. Okay, how many of you are still playing today? Keep standing. Okay, this is great. Tomorrow night, Green Lake, I have a co-ed game. I need one gal and one guy to step in and fill in. Okay, all right. That's good for you. That's great. Good exercise, guys. I'm glad we're still playing. Okay, so our format for this evening features 5 speakers, each preceded by a few short videos where they were submitted online. So we're going to start with that format. We're going to roll the first video, and then we'll get things going. So take it away.
I am here to be able to tell you, Dad, that I'm super proud of you, and I'm grateful and gutted that I cannot be there. Obviously, I'll be kicking off against North Central tonight about the same time you're kicking off this wonderful soiree to honor the great Cliff Nubby McCrath. I want to let you know how much I love you. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be able to share this with you and to be able to say, look, this is where it all started. Wheaton, where you started this whole playing, coaching career, a kickball game for girls that has become a passion, that you've been able to pour into people, that you and Mom were able to start a soccer camp and absolutely create a groundswell of strength coming out of the Washington area with regards to talent and coaching strength, and all the people that have gone out of the game, stayed in the game, but are networked by some form of connection by where your hands, limited as they were, you did the best that you could with it, and you operated sometimes with 12 instead of 7 fingers. And I would tell you that I'm grateful that you gave your life to Jesus Christ, because your whole entire life changed, and because of that life course change, you changed my life, And I can't thank you enough. And I think everybody in this room should be able to do the same thing. And those that can't be here, that they would be sharing the same thing. That even someone like Anson Dorrance, who I know is spending time to be able to share and lead and speak at this occasion, loves you. There are so many people that I run across that love you, and the relationships that come my way, the benefits I've been able to get that could be very difficult, having been a son following in the footsteps. I have been blessed over and over and over again because of the way you treated people. And so it's always given me the opportunity to either build on that relationship or destroy it on my own accord. But you have really paved the way. And I think that the opportunity just to honor you, for me, is to honor you as your son more than anything else. I'm blessed that you've been able to love on my children and my wife and the way that we operate, how much you care. And it has been a joy to be able to now watch my kids grow as how you had to watch me grow, and you didn't have the best upbringing, and you really made and did the best you could for us. And so I'm praying that what you had started is going to continue in motion so that our kids will be even stronger and more buckets filled. And I think you're an incredible bucket filler. You have done an immeasurable job of watching and leading people. And I think the reason why people are here tonight and why people come around and support and care for you is because you did it first. And as Jesus had said, he loved us before we could love anything else. And so I'm grateful that my life is paved the way it is. And again, being here at Wheaton is a bit surreal, but I'm sorry that I won't be able to be there just because we're kicking off against North Central tonight. So I will just tell you, Kimo Sabe, hey, hey, Kimo Sabe, hey, hey.
Congratulations. This evening is well deserved for you. You are truly an icon, and I have followed you in your career with my own career. I went to your camps, I worked your camps, and then I started a camp. I was recruited by you to Seattle Pacific, ended up at Washington. We had some awesome competitive games between Seattle Pacific and the UW. And then when I started coaching at Seattle University, I said, we have to do what Cliff McCrath did. We got to get the toughest schedule possible. We've got to travel. We've got to get great gear, and we got to make it fun. We've got to make it an event. We won a couple national championships because you won national championships. You set the bar, and we were just trying to keep up and get to your level. Broadcasting, you were a broadcaster long before I ever started doing it, and so I followed you into that realm as well. So congratulations, Cliff. You are truly an icon. You deserve this evening of recognition, and we're grateful. You changed soccer and the face of soccer in our community a long time ago. God bless you. Good luck to you. I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you, Coach.
Greetings from Whidbey. I just selected my Pan American soccer ball today to honor and how you've touched the international soccer community through your vision and leadership and serving on international boards and just truly making a difference for each of us that have the love of soccer. Camp was such an amazing experience, being able to do goalie drills with one of the forwards from the Manchester United team. Just unbelievable. Where else would you get to do that except with you, Coach Cliff? But one of the things that is my most memorable thing from you was my biggest catch. And you may recall that you officiated our wedding, Marshall and me, and that was truly, truly a spectacular moment in time. And again, with your vision and how you touched our hearts.
Cliff, I want to thank you for some of the best advice that I ever received. Keep playing hockey, you're never too old. Don't stop. But that pales in comparison to the love and encouragement you've shown us over the last many years. Thank you so much.
We love you, Cliff.
Love you, Cliff.
Happy celebration.
Happy.
Hello to everybody attending tonight's special recognition of a true legend of Washington State soccer, C. Clifford McCrath. Cliff, how about I open with a joke that'll blow the hair clean off the top of your head? Oh, I can see you've already heard it long ago. My apologies for hijacking one of your clever lines from decades ago, but it just goes to show you that people remember your witty humor and immense talent as a public speaker. We are here tonight to celebrate your massive contribution to the soccer landscape, both in Washington State and beyond. Seriously, Cliff, is there any level of soccer, from youth to high school to college to pro, that you haven't helped grow and left in a better place? Your life's work of sharing your knowledge, your passion, and your humor has left an undeniable legacy that will be celebrated for many years to come. Cliff, we appreciate you, we admire you, and we thank you for all you've accomplished in your amazing career. Enjoy your special night, and you are a true legend of Washington State soccer.
Wow, and we still have 4 more to go. It's pretty cool. Okay, now we'd like to welcome to the stage Dan Milgram to come up and speak.
All right, I'm going to try and do a good job. Erin just said, "Don't screw it up." Pretty certain I will. Then I was getting some advice from my wife on the drive over, and I said, "Man, I'm pretty nervous. There's all these local heroes in the room, and I don't want to read a speech in front of everybody, but this is not my normal gig, and Cliff is somebody I feel deeply emotional about, and I want to be able to share this story as authentically as possible." So I am going to read a little bit of it, and I apologize for that in advance. As Erin said, my name is Dan Milgram. My story with Cliff and Northwest Soccer Camp doesn't start very differently than thousands of kids in the area who made that summertime trip to Whidbey Island and nervous for their first sleepaway camp. It was maybe 1981, I think, about my first year at camp. I was in Lower Cedar, and it was like a dark and stormy Thursday night, and somebody said, "You don't have to stay for the story of the Nub, because the story of the Nub is really scary, and you're the little kids at camp, so you might want to go back." But I wasn't that kid. I went, I stayed for the story of the Nub, and it gave me nightmares that I think just ended last week. I think I saw Steve Friebel over there somewhere. I was going to get the bullhorn because I wanted to kind of end my speech with like the way the story of the Nub would end. I'm not going to do that, but for those of you in the room who know, you know. I digress. A few years ago, I saw a video of Mr. Rogers getting a Lifetime Achievement Award in Hollywood. At the beginning of his speech, he suggested that everybody in the room take a minute to think about somebody in their life, whether that was a coach or a teacher or a mentor, who'd had a true impact on their life without which they wouldn't be standing where they are today. And when I hear that, I think of Cliff McCrath. I bowed. I imagine many of you do too. When I connected with Frank and started to think about what I might say here, he said, you should categorize your speech into whether you know Cliff as a player, or as a camper, or as a friend, or somebody in the community. And I can't do that for you because he's been all those things to me in my life. He's been a spiritual advisor, and he's been a mentor, and he's been a coach and boss, and, well, frankly, he saved my life. Cliff refers to himself often as a back alley kid from Detroit who had the occasional missteps growing up. And as a teenager in the late 80s and early 90s, I was lost too. I was a high school dropout who was in and out of trouble with the law, no real future ahead of me. Cliff heard my story, knew that I had been a longtime camper growing up, and he invited me to come and volunteer at camp. I don't remember what you called that job. It was sort of do whatever the fuck Bernie James says to do. I'm like, be real scared. And I was real scared. Sorry. But I did that job, do whatever everybody says to do job, and I got to play in some staff games, and I started to get myself in shape physically and mentally and spiritually those of us who grew up at Fort Casey know, the place was just healing and life transforming. Mind you, I wasn't a very good soccer player. Certainly not relative to the people in this room. But Cliff, nonetheless, selfishly wrote a letter to a group of small college coaches around the country, the kinds of small colleges where sports coaches can help kids with a GED and a checkered past get into school. And I enrolled in a tiny D3 school in North Carolina. I continued to come back to work at camp every summer after that. They did finally start paying me, and I think they called me counselor or something, but I did a lot of growing up. Cliff was there for me at every turn, even though sometimes tough love was the best love. Cliff taught me about being a better student, a better soccer player, and a better human. It's humbling for me to be up here and look out at all the amazing athletes and coaches and people who told and lived the lives of the history of soccer in the Northwest and indeed around the world. I'm not one of those people at all. My story doesn't involve playing in sold-out stadiums and certainly has more than a couple of memories of getting nutmegged by Peter Hattrup. You guys too? I don't have time to catch you up on everything that's happened in the 25 or 30 years since this story starts. I graduated from college. I went to law school. I'm an executive at a software company now. I owe most of that to the hand up that Cliff gave me. Most importantly, I'm a proud husband and father of 4. 2 of my girls got to go to camp at Bastille, which was an amazing moment for me. But I don't stand here in front of you without the impact that Cliff had on my life. I'm so grateful for your grace and the impact that you had and for your love. And I'm proud to be here tonight to honor him. So thank you very much.
He didn't mess it up. He did a great job. Okay, let's roll the next video and then we'll have another speaker come.
Hello, Cliff. Hello, friends. It's great to spend a few minutes with you guys. I have amazing memories growing up every summer, spending with the SPU staff and Cliff at Fort Casey. Played a major role in my foundation as a player and some amazing memories. Although I was always scared of that last night with Cliff, your stories. But you have had an incredible impact on soccer in the United States, soccer in Seattle. An icon, an incredible orator, motivator, role model. And I've been around many coaches in my career, and the communication and the motivation and the ability to get a group of players to believe in a goal and a vision. And I would say in this country, you're one of the best at doing that. And, incredible memories of hosting games in Seattle when the national team had come back. You were always a big part of all the games that we played and important games that took part in Seattle. I've learned so much about Detroit Red Wings hockey from you and the history of Detroit. So I want to visit there one day. But I just want to thank you for everything you did in my life and my family's life, and the impact you've had in the game. Truly one of the greats, and I wish I could see you more often. It's pretty far away living in Miami, but I hope you guys all have a wonderful night. Share the memories together. Thank you for everything.
C. Clifford McCrath, Uncle Nubby. 6 decades. That number has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Just think of how many lives you've impacted in all those years. 6 million, give or take? Some great memories, but I'll just share one. Always remember our Thanksgiving soccer games. The Irish Rainies against the Scottish McCraths. And we all know how that worked out. Thank you for not cutting the walk-on from O'Day High School back in 1978. I think it worked out for everyone. Lots of love from the entire Rainey family. Live forever and 47 years. Love you, Nub.
Hey, Uncle Nubby. Along with the Sounders coming to Seattle, you and Northwest Soccer Camp were a huge part of my upbringing and changed the trajectory of my life. I was dead set on being a firefighter like my dad, but when my passions for soccer were ignited, that all changed. Northwest Soccer Camp was the first camp that I went to, and after that it was the only camp I wanted to go to. I remember going across on the ferry and being really excited about the staff. They were super challenging, and the quality of players that were going to the camp at that time were second to none. All the best players from the Seattle area would go, and I was very excited about that. It was the best part of my summer. I remember coming home and wanting to show my parents immediately what I'd learned that week at camp and how I'd improved, and it was so great. I just want to thank you for that, and thank you for everything you've done in the Seattle area at all levels of soccer. And congratulations on a great career and a great life. Not very many people can say that they've impacted so many people on a positive level, but you have. And on a personal note, I want to say thank you for being so supportive and positive in my life. You are a huge part of who I am today. Thank you so much.
Wow. Isn't technology great? How we can just have these videos, we can zoom away, and we don't have to be in person, but it's so great to be in here in person. Okay, next up, a very special person coming down, Marcus Hanneman.
My speech isn't up here. This says the run of show. I forgot what I was going to say. Just go up. There we go. So, Marcus Hanneman. I owe most everything to my parents, Art and Helga here. My mom did more laundry than everybody combined here, I think, at some stage. My dad coached growing up, my sister's team and my team, and without them, I wouldn't be here. And then meeting Cliff, came up to my parents' house, one meeting, and I'm like, that's who I want to play for, right? That was it. He was the guy. He won us over, won my parents over, and it was just such an amazing experience to be able to give an opportunity to go, and he wanted someone who could start right away, and I'm like, well, I can do that. I didn't want a red shirt because there's no way I was going to be 5 years in college. I'm in and out in 4 years, going to the Marine Corps. I want to fly helicopters when I'm done. Like, my path was set. Well, things kind of changed a little bit, right? A whole bunch of great stories about Cliff. The crazy stories like the Bahia, we would do corners, and then we did the snake. Who remembers the snake? Where everybody would line up on the outside of the 18, you know, and we'd go in for this corner kick, and Cliff had all these plays designed. And then there was, we were in South Carolina. I remember this game pretty clearly. We were going to drop it back to our center back. I think it was Jason Farrell or Jason Dunn's running up the left side. We're going to bomb it up, and we're going to score. It was as simple as that. Well, the ball came back to our center back. Guy comes chasing down, flat sprint. Our center back, I can't remember who it was, smashes it right off the forward's chest. It goes over my head straight into the net. I'm like, fuck. Cliff goes, do it again. Do it again. So, drop it back to our center back, no shit. Down the sideline, bounces around, cross comes in, we score 1-1. And I think my dad was at this game, but I still remember some idiot standing up on the sidelines, you guys ready to play now? And that was 4 years with Cliff. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. And, you know, we had the whole coaching staff and everything, and then being able to work at soccer camp that whole time in the summer was an amazing experience and, you know, I mean, you see all the different faces here, it's crazy. It's just a blast from the past. It was pretty awesome. And then, you know, I got to go over to play in Europe and come back in 2012. And we're sitting in a bar, and I can't remember, a whole bunch of buddies around. I think Kovacs goes, so you've played for all these great managers. I was like, yeah. I'm like, what? And he goes, who are the best managers you've ever had? I was like, sat there for a second. I went, well, Cliff and Alan Hinton. Kovacs is like, that's bullshit. Like, what are you talking about? Like, Cliff, he didn't coach that team. That was Paul Mendez, Bobby McLaughlin, John Richardson, and Otter. Like, he goes, well, you didn't ask who the best coach was, right? And he goes, Cliff knows nothing. He played hockey, you know, and all this. I'm like, yeah, but Cliff managed us, right? He gave us, he taught me what a team was supposed to be like. And, you know, my entire 20-year professional career, you were just searching for that, and you found it once or twice, right? And then you'd bring some bad apple into the team, and then it was gone again, you know? So it's, Cliff taught me a lot about what a team was supposed to be about. And pretty incredible. And when you think of, like, I played for Tigana, who won the World Cup, Steve Koppel, my most successful time. Yeah. I was looking at you, Pete, when I said that, so Pete knows. Yeah. I've never been megged by Peter Hattrup, by the way, that I can remember. So I've played for all these great managers, and, you know, when you think back through everything, you know, you go, okay, Alan gave me my first chance as a professional, and then Cliff gave me a chance to really kind of learn my craft and grow as an adult. And, you know, when I first got there, we had 0 rules. The only rule we had is if we were leaving at 9 o'clock, our caravan of Lincoln Town cars, because we were staying in nice hotels and Lincoln Town cars, so when we strolled up, 9 o'clock, we were leaving at 9. And if you weren't there, so nobody was ever late. That was our only rule we had, until we had some other degenerates come to our team. And I think we were in Miami, no, LA. We were LA, and, you know, I don't know anything about this because we got a game the next day. Apparently some guys turned up at like 2 in the morning when Cliff's going back down to the bar. Yeah, just let that sink in for a second. He's going down the elevator. Guys are coming back into the bar. And that's the only reason why they got caught. There were no door checks. There was no nothing. And so a few guys got sent home that day, but we learned a valuable lesson of what a team was. And then we had curfews and some awkward things. Yeah. Oh, there are some guys who remember. Yeah. Yeah, they're all here. But I just want to say thank you, Cliff, for everything. And then one more thing. I want to know how many people Cliff is actually married in this room. 'Cause everyone stand up, because I'm already standing, so I'm up. So, and then everyone's still married, who he's married, yes. Which is also good. So I've also followed in Cliff's footsteps. I'm now doing that too. So I've done a few, I've done like 6 or 7 weddings, and they're all still married as well. But Cliff, thank you for everything. You're awesome.
Okay, we're gonna roll the next video.
From your friends in St. Louis, the KIRO family. I know you were pals with my dad, Harry KIRO, and also with his brother, Bill KIRO. And what great memories we have going through the years, college soccer, all the camps up at the Northwest Soccer Camp. And you're a man of many names, Nubnaldo, Nubalino, and you brought me a great roommate too up at the Northwest Soccer Camp. I remember Pete Hattrup picked me up at the airport. He says, "Hey, your roommate's going to be Edu." And I go, "Wait a minute." I go, "The Edu?" He goes, "Well, yeah, you know, the guy that played for Brazil." And I'm like, "The guy that played in the 1970 World Cup for Brazil?" So you called him the Santa Claus of soccer. And I got to experience him as a great friend as well. Thanks to you, a man of many names, but a man of one big heart. It's been wonderful to be in a relationship with all of you guys in the Pacific Northwest for a long time, especially Cliff. So Stoich Nub, my favorite name for you. Have a great evening.
Congrats on this honor, all the honors you've received as a direct result of your remarkable career, your impact on young people, not only those that you coached at SPU and elsewhere, but all the kids, through all the camps, all the years, all the lessons learned from you, well beyond soccer, but about life, and those lessons get carried forward and passed along. And that to me is really what a great coach is all about. It's about helping young people build some foundational principles for the remainder of their life. And there's no doubt that you've done that. You've done that in such a unique way with a tremendous sense of humor. I will never forget all your appearances at the Seattle PI Sports Star of the Year Awards, some classic material that you dropped there. And also, I think this community owes you a great deal of debt. I don't think it would be as passionate as it is about the sport of soccer without you. You are a big part of why the Sounders thrive here, the Reign thrive here, collegiate high school soccer. Cliff, you are one of a kind.
I can't think of a better way to commemorate the great career of Cliff McCrath than to reenact his iconic trip from here to the Space Needle on his knees. This was a really bad idea. Is that the Space Needle?
Yep.
Isn't it beautiful, Carol? I made it! I made it, Cliff! Cliff, you had 5 national championships, 36 consecutive winning seasons. More important than any of that, well, not for you, but for the city of Seattle, you put Division II soccer on the map in a big city. I went to a lot of your games. You developed MLS players, you developed EPS players, you developed All-Americans. But putting the team on the map in Seattle was incredible. A lot of your players are friends of mine now. You're a friend of mine now. I always appreciate your notes, whether it's digging me about something or inspiring me. So thank you, Cliff, for all the years.
They just keep getting better. We're going to hear from another great journalist here. Art Teal is here tonight. Art, come on up.
These people don't know you, do they? All this nice stuff. They can't be talking about you, but you know, I'm really excited that Steve Kelly went ahead and did that thing. That relieved me of a really dumb idea. I see that most of you, not actually most of you, but very few of you, are probably old enough to remember newspapers. And for you youngsters, newspapers were a kind of a crummy form of communication among primitives of the 20th century. And Cliff knew about how newspapers worked, but he had a big advantage because he was born in the 19th century. So he had a lot of experience. And what I most remember was in the early 80s, that's when I first met Cliff, and I got a sense of him, and only when I was thinking about what to say, it just dawned on me that not only was he contemporary with whatever was going on in newspapers, he was way ahead. Because if you think about it, he was social media before social media. Think about every time you scroll your phone looking for dumb jokes. Cliff, way ahead of his time. I got a real dose of that. In 1986, as was mentioned, the PI had an annual event called the Sports Star of the Year. And this was an intriguing time in Seattle sports because a lot was going on. Obviously, the Kingdom ushered in the era of pro sports. The Seahawks showed up in '76, the Mariners in '77, joining the Sonics in '67. And of course, the University of Washington had a big, robust program of athletics. But the NASL Sounders expired in 1983, and the Sounders would not be renewed until 2009. So there was a real void in the sports landscape for soccer. There was not, there were certainly the youth programs, there were certainly college programs, but the high profile, it wasn't there. And so I recall that in '86, that particular Sports Star of the Year event, it had representing the Seahawks, Jacob Green, longtime hero there. The Sonics were represented by Xavier McDaniel. The Mariners had nothing and nobody. And the University of Washington had Reggie Rogers, 2 Sports Star, Christian Velp, who is still to this day the all-time leading scorer in men's basketball at UW. And the winner of that year's voting was this guy, Cliff McCrath. And nobody could figure out why. But then we did a little investigating, and that was when we realized that was the era when everyone in the house could vote on the winner. It wasn't done electronically, it wasn't done ahead of time. And we realized that Cliff went around the entire room and told a bad joke to everyone in the house. But that's the mystique, the charm, and the wonders of Cliff McCrath in his relationships with sports media. He did a great job of honking the horn when the horn needed to be honked, and then 10 times more. He was the columnist's favorite guy because there were times, even in the busy schedules, where there was a slow news day. I remember once having one of those days. Nothing was happening. A column idea fell through. I called Cliff up and I said, Cliff, talk to me. And after about 10 minutes, I sat the phone down and I started typing. And I pretty much finished the column, and then I picked the phone back up and he was still talking. I really regret not testing that theory again by calling him at 11 o'clock at night, putting the phone down and coming back to work the next day to see if he would still be talking. But the thing that was quite true about what Cliff was doing was modern media relations, and he was a master at it. And I would encourage all of you who are advocating for soccer at the junior level, at the high school level, at the college, at the ownership levels, to take lessons from the master, because Cliff always went after the media folks with a real engagement, a smile. He returned everybody's calls. He was engaging, and he didn't make up everything. Sometimes he told you some facts. And he was always made himself available. And the thing that gets him, and I think this is sort of overlooked in the day, which is in the busy world of sports, there's always controversy. There's always some dispute between players and referees, coaches, managers, owners. And what Cliff gave everybody, the reporters that dealt with him on a regular basis, was enough stuff that when it came to a 50-50 decision on who to believe, this guy always got the benefit of the doubt. And he didn't commit too many criminal acts in my presence, but if there was ever any issue or controversy or whatever where no one could figure out what was happening between the various sides, Cliff always got the break. And that tells you something about human relations and his understanding of what it means to be fully engaged with the person you're talking with. Try to do things that put them at ease, like insult them or mock yourself, or basically just do the routine he did for 15 years at the PI Sports Star of the Year banquet. Some of you probably don't know what all of that is about, but I'm sure there's a YouTube video somewhere that has a composite of all the great comedians that appeared on the Johnny Carson show. That's where he got his lines. So I just think that Cliff has made such an impact on people, as you've heard already, that it's really important that I think those folks who are responsible for putting on the Club World Cup in 2025 and the FIFA Men's Tournament coming in 2026 need to really treat the international visitors who will be here by having a video of an hour of Cliff's one-liners. There is no better way to tell the story of Seattle sports than through this man's bad jokes. Thank you.
We're going to have to continue this open mic night down the street at the bar. We have a couple more videos to get through, a couple more speakers, so let's roll the next one.
With the exception of my father, I can say that Cliff has been the most influential and consequential mentor in my life. Our love for the game drew us in at the creation of Northwest Soccer Camp. Cliff was the inspiration for the whole operation. His experience, his leadership, his vision for the camp is what brought us all together. Cliff was our lighthouse. Did you know that at Camp Casey, there is a lighthouse right real close to where the soccer fields are? And if you're on a boat on the ocean there, you can see both the fields and the lighthouse all in one shot with your binoculars if you're traveling. So if you ever get lost at night, look for that lighthouse. That'll take you right to the soccer camp. We came from all different parts of the world. Cliff's values, his principles, his priorities that he demonstrated is what kept us all coming back for decades. And it was not all fun and games. There were difficult times too, challenges, and I was there to witness Cliff's handling of these difficult moments. It came in all varieties, on and off the field. But in each situation, he demonstrated how he operated with fairness, honor, integrity, and that was a valuable experience for me. The life lessons you learn go well beyond the game.
I am a lifelong Northwest Soccer camper. I first came to Northwest Soccer Camp when I was 11 years old. I had just moved to Mukilteo from California, and it was my first overnight camp. So I was super excited to be with friends and do all the soccer stuff out on Whidbey Island, and quickly fell in love with it. Went back every summer until I graduated from high school, and went on to play in college, and also with the women's national team briefly. And during that time, Cliff did so many things to help me in terms of training. He allowed me to come work out with the SPU men's team, and trained with me at camp when we were not coaching, and just did a lot of things for me as a player. And in addition, I ended up becoming a coach at Northwest Soccer Camp, and I think I worked at camp for 6 or 7 summers, straight summers, and the family that developed there, that we had there, was just so extraordinary. So many incredible memories, and so many friends made, just so much fun. So when I think about Cliff and all that he has done, not just for me, but other people in Washington State in terms of soccer and their careers and their lives, he's just had such an incredible impact on so many people, including myself. And he's just a very generous human being and is always looking out for others and doing what he can to help lift up others up. So I am so excited that we are honoring him today.
I have the privilege of leading the SPU men's soccer team. It's a program that Cliff built and turned into a national powerhouse. His legacy at SPU is unrivaled: 5 national championships, 14 Final Fours. He created a program that set the standard in terms of winning, but more importantly, developing men of character that have made an impact far beyond the soccer field. I'm truly grateful for the advice, the counsel, the support that he's given to me as I've stepped into this role. I speak for our current players and staff in saying thank you. Thank you for the influence you've had in the soccer community worldwide. Thank you for the impact you've had on the thousands of young men and women who have come through Northwest Soccer Camps and Seattle Pacific. This year we brought back the tradition of doing our preseason at Camp Casey. It's a place that laid the foundation for so many of the successful teams that won championships here. It's a place that has shaped so many young people through their participation at Northwest Soccer Camps. We hope it can inspire our current group towards creating a new legacy, but also in honoring all the great players and teams that have come before us. We have the ultimate responsibility as coaches and leading young people, and there's no one who's done that better and deserves this honor more than Cliff. He's inspired and touched the lives of more people than we will ever know. Congratulations, Cliff.
See, Clifford, I believe we first met by Jimmy Dunn introduction in and around 1978, after finishing at Azusa Pacific and was playing for Athletes in Action in California, for the purpose of coming to the Great Northwest and attended camp at Fort Casey. In those early days, you were so gracious, allowing me to stay at your Queen Anne place, getting to know the area, your kids, Stacy and Stevie. Those times in the many years to follow were some of the most formative times for me as a coach here locally, UPS, physical therapist, husband, and father. Nubby, you and the Northwest Soccer Camp family have contributed so many fabulous people here in the Northwest, and I'm so grateful to be a part of that legacy that you started. Cliff, you're a guy of street smarts, playful outrageousness, competitiveness, a man of faith, and the shirt off your back kind of guy. And the guy missing fingers. Though I didn't get to witness the Queen Anne hands and knees thing, I did get to see you dive off into a truckload of Jello at a memorial, and that was pretty cool. So many camp memories, staff games, trips to the Tyee, dances, corny skits. I miss those days. Love you, Nubber.
All right, next up, Peter Hattrup.
Well, first I have a question. I've known Cliff for 50 years now. Who's this Cliff McCrath guy you guys are talking about? You would think if you're a legend, they'd get your name right by now. So those of you of a certain vintage will remember Wednesday nights, which is what we're at tonight, for those of you who've forgotten, at Northwest Soccer Camp were karaoke nights in Coopville. And there were some written and unwritten rules. Most of them are unwritten. Don't go up by yourself. Sing a song other people know so they can join in with. If you're new, you better sign up for your own song, or we'll sign you up for a song. Make sure your throat is well lubricated before you go up. Never follow Tim. Tim was a local that actually could sing. Whenever possible, follow Rockin' Raj. Rockin' Raj worked in the camp kitchen. He practiced his songs. He was horrible. So if you went up after Raj, you were kind of golden. When I looked at the speaking list, I tried to figure out who Raj was going to be. I'm a little worried sometimes. It's like if you play poker and they say, in the first 15 minutes, you should know who the pigeon at the table is. And if you haven't figured it out, Adrian, it's you. So, hoping I'm not Raj. If I am, at least like Raj, I hope I'm entertaining if I'm bad. I look around and I see former campers. I see former staff members, former players, former colleagues, friends, family, opponents, admirers. I've got to fill all those roles at one time in my life or another. So there's a lot of people that have known Cliff a long time in this audience, which is understandable because he's freaking old. Most of you are probably familiar with the movie Forrest Gump, where we followed Forrest Gump's life through many major events in the United States. He started out at University of Alabama playing for a legendary coach, Bear Bryant. He was at Alabama University during desegregation. He was an All-American. He got to go visit President Kennedy. He went to Vietnam. Got shot. Visited President Johnson. He was, on purpose or not on purpose, at a major peace demonstration at the Washington Mall. He became a ping pong expert and went to the first diplomatic trip to China once it reopened. Somehow he was given a pair of Nikes and he started the running craze across America. Cliff is our version of Seattle's Forrest Gump. He showed up in Seattle at a college, maybe not desegregation, but about the time Cliff got there, maybe they let the women start wearing makeup at Seattle Pacific University. He was part of the formation of the Sounders. He was behind the scenes. Like was said before, no one knew anything about soccer. These people just wanted to get into ownership. He targeted and recruited John Best. He was in charge of the draft early on for the Sounders. And as anybody that's ever met Dave DiRico will tell you, Dave was the first player drafted by the Seattle Sounders. He was at the beginning of the soccer camp explosion in America. He and Mike Ryan started Northwest Soccer Camp when it was nothing. Camp went from a few people to 250 to 300 every week for 8 weeks. He was the first one in Seattle that won a national championship. We're in Washington, 1978. If you look back at the history now, there's probably close to 50 national championships out of Washington. Professional, college, youth, of all different varieties. Men's, women's, club teams. Over 30 teams. Right, Brian? Right. He was there at the Soccer Bowl. Former players, former staff members. Paul Mendez was part of that team that was down there. Dave Gillett and Jimmy McAllister were part of that team. Soccer Bowl 82 when Alan Hinton was coaching. He took his Seattle Pacific team down there. We all saw the game. When the Sounders' demise started, when John Anderson bought the team, feel free to boo now, and jettisoned a Soccer Bowl coach, Alan Hinton, another shocker. Cliff was one of the people they approached to coach. Thank goodness he didn't do it, because that started a roll of 4 national titles, or 4 national finals and 3 national titles from 83 to 86. Sounders are gone. All of a sudden, Cliff pops up again. It's FC Seattle. Bud Greer's willing to finance it. Dave Gillett, Tommy Jenkins, Jimmy Gabriel, Cliff, we're all behind that. Brought soccer back. As Chris Henderson said earlier, 1993, U.S.-Russia at the Kingdom. Cliff was behind helping get that here. And then, as we go, as history repeats itself, 1994, Alan Hinton brings back the Sounders. And way before the Kraken hired the first female assistant coach, Alan hired an assistant coach that was female. She happened to be a former staff member and camper. Our chairman for the evening, and I'm not saying co-chairperson, our chairperson for the evening, Gina Segadelli. Time goes on, we have a stadium vote. Any chance of professional soccer moving on to bigger levels? Needs a stadium to pass. Cliff's out in the forefront of that again. The Sounders finally come back to the big time, because they were here the whole time. Sorry, Art. 94 to 2009, they were still existing. Cliff shows up again. He's in the broadcast booth. We can all debate the idiot that decided that they should put Alan, Pete Fewing, and Cliff in one small broadcast booth, but he was there. His fingerprints are all over soccer in America. So there's a couple differences between Cliff and Forrest Gump. Cliff put himself there on purpose. Forrest just kept bumbling into it. And Cliff never, ever said, "That's all I have to say about that." His coaching was one thing, his camp experience was another. The reach and the tentacles of Cliff went far. We can go all the way back, as Ty Keogh talked about earlier, to 1966. And there was a camp, staff member, or camper involved in every World Cup, 1966, 1970, 1974, 1978, when Bruce Rioch, who was a guest at camp, captained Scotland. 1982, which I wasn't sure we had, but Joe Corrigan, who ran a week of goalkeeping camp up there, was part of England's team. I thought I was going to have to fall back on Sean Connery's narration of Gallo, which Cliff, being both Scottish and delusional, thought he was like Sean Connery. But we'll let that go. 1986, somehow we had a miss because John Graves couldn't convince Ian Bridge to come down and work camp ever. But 90, 91, the Women's World Cup starts. And Andreassen, who's gracious enough to join us tonight, has been a guest clinician at camp. Michelle Akers was there for years. Shannon Higgins was a camper there. Laurie Henry was a camper there. So 91, 95, 99, the team that really put the U.S. women on the map. 2002, 2006, 2010. Casey Marcus, thank you for keeping us involved in this World Cup for a long time. The camp history has been phenomenal. I don't know many camps in the world where we can find a franchise owner as a camper, Adrian Hanauer, a general manager, Craig Weibel, who I used to yell at when he was a camper, a commissioner for a women's professional league, Lionel Messi's boss, Chris Henderson, the staff at the University of Washington, Seattle Pacific University, Pacific Lutheran, University of Puget Sound, Seattle U, have all been represented by former campers or players of Cliff's. I'd be remiss not to mention right now, we lost a soccer friend and another legend in the area. Reg Evans passed away recently. He was also integral at Seattle Pacific at our training camps. He used to come all the time and camp. And I know Simon is here today, so thought for Simon. And last, on a personal way, because I think Cliff's biggest impact on all of us is how he impacts us personally. Not globally, which he does a great job, but I was both a camper, then a player. Sorry, Cliff, you had to deal with that for, only 3 years. I didn't stay long enough. Camp staff member, an assistant coach. He performed my wedding. But most importantly for me, for the last 40 years plus, he's been a friend and a dear friend. He's had success on so many levels. At one stretch, they went to 13 Final Fours in 20 years. He won 5 national championships. I know, sorry, Anson, that's a bad decade for you, but for the rest of us, it's pretty good. He won almost 600 games. He's been in numerous Hall of Fames, all right? From the really impressive ones to the Winlock Egg Hall of Fame, which they induct somebody every 27 years or something, I don't know, not 47. But Cliff's biggest measure of success is not his individual successes. It's the impact he's had on all of us and on so many beyond this wall. And I rarely want to speak for other people, but I think I will tonight. If you have one still available, whether it's got water, soda, beer, wine, raise a glass. Cliff, thank you. I love you.
All right, so special. We have one more video.
Hey, Cliff. Brian Schmetzer here. Look, just walking down the Hall of Legends, and a lot of interesting stuff there behind my back up here. But look, I just want to say congrats. 597 victories, 47. Lots of memories up at Northwest Soccer Camp. But you developed character. You developed a lot of character and a lot of guys. You get a long history here in the soccer world in Seattle, and I'm proud of you. You've done a lot, so thanks. And enjoy your night. You deserve it, and take care.
Hey, Nub. I'm delighted to be part of honoring you tonight. It's Aunt Deb from Northwest Soccer Camp, and we're also happy to show love to you tonight. I want to talk about 4 main lessons that I learned from you that I've taken out into the world. The first was leadership. You gave me leadership opportunities and helped mentor me, and that affected me for my whole career with the confidence and the capabilities that I had, so thank you for that. The second thing I got from you was to bring family and be family. You brought your whole family, including little Skeeter, so that we could be part of your family, and you encouraged us to bring our whole family, which we all did. You encouraged me to coach when I was pregnant, when I had Jimmy in a backpack, when I was giant pregnant with Anthony. You encouraged us to take care of each other so that when Paul Barron's son got the flu and threw up in bed in the middle of the night, I cleaned it up for him. And we would still all take care of each other in that way. Bob Goff took care of me when I was pregnant by bringing me a sandwich made of 2 pieces of white bread with a brownie in between. That's the kind of caring that we showed each other at Northwest Soccer Camp. The third thing that we all learned from you is to have fun at work. We were in skits, we did the Fort Hike, we all jumped at the story of the Nub, we made masks in the arts and crafts room. Somebody dressed Jimmy up and put him in a box to dance on stage when he was 5 years old. We were all having fun at camp all the time, and we all took that to our workplaces all the time. The fourth and big lesson is to love people where they're at. We came to you as flawed people, and you loved us all regardless of our flaws, and you helped us grow. Thank you for all the care that you took for all of us. You showed us that precious gift of love that we could all give each other. I hope you enjoy this evening, Nub. Thank you.
Everyone's going to talk about a lot of the things that remind them of you, and I'm going to try not to be redundant because there's some themes. I'm just going to tell one quick story about the first time I met you. I'm half Washingtonian, half Californian, officially this year. 30 years of my life in California, 30 years here in the Pacific Northwest. First time I met Cliff McCrath was when my college head coach, that I was first year assistant coach at my alma mater at Cal Berkeley, JP Verhees, took us to Chico to play. And I think JP and Cliff had probably been friends for a few years. I think JP was a Northwest Soccer Camp regular, so he knew about Cliff. And JP, being Dutch, tended to leave his wallet when it was time to pay for things. So he never missed a free opportunity to get something good out of things. Anyway, we pulled up to Chico, dropped our team off, and then JP and I don't know who else was on staff at the time, rolled over to the fields at Chico at night, and the stadium lights were on, and I didn't know what we were doing, but he said we were going to dinner. And so we got there, and up pull all these Lincoln Town cars. And there were all these tables out and set, and there were little lamps on them, and out rolled Cliff and his staff, and maybe even players. I don't remember. It was also confusing to me, but it felt a little bit like, I don't know, something from medieval times. But the traditions and the things that Cliff would pull off with his team were unique. The way he built teams, obviously unique. Some of the things that people could tell you about his time at SPU, I'm sure there'll be plenty of those stories coming out of tonight. But that was my first impression, is who is this guy sitting at the head of the table in the middle of a soccer field the night before a game with a big spread and little lamps telling stories and holding court.
Cliff, what an honor for me to speak to you and to the folks that are going to see this video. You have been such a powerful, positive influence in my life in so many different ways. Coaching in the beautiful Pacific Northwest together alongside one another for many years, opposing universities, but still alongside each other in this beautiful game of soccer. Then with the National Soccer Coaches Organization, we've served on committees together. We've hugged and sat in each other's presentations. You've just been somebody who's been in my balcony, supporting me like you do with so many people, and influencing the great game of soccer. You are a remarkable, one-of-a-kind, amazing guy, and it's just been a treat, a joy, a laugh, a privilege, and an honor to share the same space with you. Good luck, my friend.
What's there left to be said about my good friend Cliff McCrath, or more affectionately known as Uncle Nubby, the man who I feel kind of single-handedly kind of kept soccer alive in the Pacific Northwest after the NASL folded, through obviously all the national championships with Seattle Pacific. But I think for me, the lasting impression that he's had on so many young soccer players with Northwest Soccer Camp, and the experiences that all those young soccer players had there, I being one of them. I had such great times up on Whidbey Island at Camp Casey, and Uncle Nubby was such a huge impact on that, on my career, on so many others, so much so that he really became, such a family friend, so much so as well that he actually married my wife and I. So I have nothing but love for the great Uncle Nubby, and I'm so excited that hopefully I can be available at this very fun night coming up. So Nub, we love you. We'll talk to you soon. See you, bud.
Casey, we're glad you made it tonight. Love the video. We have one more speaker, and that is Anson Torrance.
Okay, the winter of 1977 was my first NSCAA soccer convention. It was there that I witnessed for the first time this man on fire that we are here to celebrate. As everyone in this room knows, he is an extraordinary speaker. Yes, he's funny, he's deep, but back then, to all of us, he was also terrifying. If you had drawn the short straw and were asked to introduce him, watch out. Because no matter how gracious you were in your intro, you were going to be blown up in some spectacularly clever way by Cliff before his speech began. And if you were in the front row or on the dais, you also had a knot in your stomach because odds were something was going to be fired in your direction as well. Honestly, growing up, I was never interested in coaching. My dad was an oil businessman, and he was starting his own oil company, and he wanted me to be his corporate attorney. The family humor back in the day was at least I wouldn't have a tendency to steal from my own estate. So that was Doran's family humor. And I love my father. I went to law school for him. But watching Cliff in action made soccer coaching cool. We're all built by the people that inspire us. In Training Soccer Champions, I mention these people. Cliff's name is first, open quotes. In the late 70s and early 80s, my mentors were a collage. I wanted to be able to speak like Cliff McCrath, organize myself like Joe Moroni, have the tactical understanding of Jim Lennox and Jay Miller, the presence of Bob Gansler and the class of Bill Schellenberger. Although I did not succeed in any category, I always wanted to aspire to a high standard. I hope some of the things I have shared in this book convey that ambition, close quotes. To this day, I tell my athletes that they are going to be the average of the 7 people they hang out with most, so choose wisely. Once you graduate from college, it becomes the 7 people that inspire you most. So who are those 7 people for you? Cliff is one of mine. The things he has done for me, I will never be able to repay. He mentioned earlier with me Dr. Marvin Allen, who was my mentor and soccer coach at the University of North Carolina. I asked Cliff to give his keynote on his retirement day, and it was so heartwarming for the wonderful man I had played for. I owed him a debt from the beginning of my coaching life. He was also my induction speaker for the Honor Award at the NSCAA. My entire family was there, and his love was felt by my wife and every one of my 3 kids. It was one of those God take me now moments, because life will never get better than this. To hear him describe your life is an extraordinary privilege. I believe all of us should live a principle-centered life. Some of us will get this from our religious and spiritual commitments, but because the world is becoming more secular, I try to get my athletes to live a set of 13 core values. And there is one core value that rules them all. It is from Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. It is having the ability to choose your attitude in any set of circumstances, to choose your own way. In my opinion, this is Cliff's superpower. He is an upbeat, never defeated, positive and powerful life force, and I know all of us in this room love having him in our lives. Cliff is sui generis. That's a Latin phrase for of its own kind, its own thing. There's nothing else like it in a class by itself. Unique. And I'm going to recruit Jack Kerouac to conclude for me. Open quotes. The only people for me are the mad ones, the ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, mad to be saved, desirous of everything at the same time, the ones who never yawn or say a commonplace thing, but burn, burn, burn like fabulous yellow Roman candles exploding like spiders across the stars. Cliff, thank you for saving me from being a lawyer. From the fall of 1976 to the spring of 1979, I was a part-time men's soccer coach and an almost full-time law student. It was taking me into my 4th year of law school to get my law degree, since I took a course shy each semester in order to coach the men. And in that 4th year, UNC added a women's team to my responsibilities. So in the fall of 1979, I was the head men's soccer coach, I was the head women's soccer coach, and I was a law student. I was getting only 5 to 6 hours sleep every night, and I could not do it all. In the middle of October, I staggered home one day and apologized to my sweet wife, Melissa. Honey, I am so sorry. We are not going to retire on a yacht in the Mediterranean. I have decided to become a soccer coach. Thank you. Thank you, Cliff, for inspiring me to live a life that has exceeded my dreams. Yes, I am following a mad one, and I would not change a thing.
All right, let's give it up again for all of our speakers. It was so much to go through. It was great. So many great memories. So much inspiration now. We'd like to introduce now the president of Washington State Legends of Soccer, Frank Gallo, to share the organization's mission and our Jimmy Gabriel Memorial Scholarship paddle raising.
I just turned 72 last night, so give me a break. That's pretty quick. For a 72-year-old, no aspersions cast to any of you who are older than me, but I feel your pain. So I'm, as you've heard, president of Washington State Legends of Soccer, and in a moment I'm going to explain how Cliff recruited me to this position. But before I do that, and by the way, we are probably going to go over our deadline. As soon as I finish, I'm going to introduce one of our first scholarship recipients to make a few comments. We're going to do our Raise the Paddles for the Jimmy Gabriel Scholarship Fund, which is another one of our reasons for being. In addition to the inspiration of tonight, is also to use some money to inspire younger people to play soccer and to grow, as we've heard about tonight. So, what I want to do is acknowledge the guy that makes this happen. I coached for 30 years. I understand the difference between stars and role players. I'm a role player. The star of tonight in our organization is Frank MacDonald, who's sitting behind a screen. He knew this was likely going to go over for all of the right reasons. We hope they're not going to start flashing lights, as happened on my home, porch lights. But he said, Frank, you got 2 minutes and 39 seconds, which I've already wasted about 60 seconds, but I thought it was important so you understand the person who, run of show, says this is what's going to happen and who's going to be up next and how it's going to flow, which is orchestration to its extreme, as I hope you'd agree, because this has been inspiring. In fact, this was the second time I heard Anson speak. First time, where's Anson? Was in the 90s, remember we did the Washington Women in the World Cup? Last time you guys came out to play, Leslie and Amy, I was in tears hearing those stories about women's soccer in Washington inspiring the national program, led by yours truly here, right? Oh my gosh. So that's the kind of things we do. And the reason why we do fundraisers is because we offer things like that and we don't charge people. We have an online soccer history museum, which I'd suggest you check out. You can sort it by decade, by level, but whatever. Much of what we do, we don't charge for. And most of the volunteers, including most of the board who make this happen, do it for the love of the game. That's why we implore, for those of you that appreciate that, is to do what you can to help. So we want to acknowledge, as we already did with the, was it Mr. Wacker, the lawyer? Wow, what generosity and what a heartwarming story. We've had a number of people come out of their pockets to donate beyond just buying a ticket, including, I would say, a couple of my farmer charges at the University of Washington, which I'm happy to say, that we're lifelong combatants. We have the respect and joy with each other to appreciate what it takes to make this happen. So, Cliff called me up. I actually retired from coaching in 2012. I spent 7 years at the college level. So I coached against Cliff at UPS in Tacoma for 3 years, starting with Bruce Arena, who left on to bigger and better things. I had 4 years at the University of Washington, after which I had to leave because I had 2 young kids, and guess what? College coaching back then didn't do it. Cliff was helpful in not only helping get started in the money business, but with, as many people have already shared with you, the kind of friendship and guidance to say, have you thought about this? Which is a polite way of saying, you ought to think about this. So Cliff said, you know what? You ought to join the Legends. He didn't tell me up front, you're going to be president. That came later. Because he said, it's all about preserving, celebrating, and inspiring the beautiful game. And growing up in St. Louis, Ty Keogh's dad didn't recruit me because he said I didn't have enough skill. That's where I was back then. Back to the issue is, we end up where we are in a small community led by important people, and leadership matters, as we've heard tonight, and we all know, because it's not just a bunch of soccer players, men or women, it's achievers, right? People of high level of accomplishment. So we celebrate that. We're inspired to do more, but we also want to preserve the past. So there are people who are no longer alive who are on our YouTube channel, which if you've never seen, I suggest you check it out. It's fascinating. So that's what we do. And as I mentioned about Jimmy Gabriel, who was the first captain and eventually a coach of the Sounders, and following with our first celebration in 2019 of Alan Hinton, we started our scholarship fund then, but as Jimmy passed away, we've now embraced he and his family for the Jimmy Gabriel Scholarship Fund. We actually have one of the very first recipients from 2019 here that, as I momentarily take a moment to pause, is going to come up and share with you how important it was for she, as again, as part of the notion of we're not just here to celebrate the past, absolutely, we're also here to inspire and contribute to the future, including, where's Peter Tomazawa? Right there. So we hope to be partners with the World Cup 26, and that's what the scarf is all about, in case you're old enough and you can't see this far. But the point is, it's all about the community, and we are a nonprofit support to what goes on the field. And to the earlier comment, we're thrilled we won on penalty kicks on Monday night. That's what it's all about today, but we're also here to focus on building for the future. So, what we want to do is, as I started to say, is thank our generous sponsors, financially speaking, because this wouldn't happen without them. Everybody buys a ticket. Most people buy a ticket, I understand, but that's not enough. So we appreciate what they've done. We have our chairpersons, Gina Segadelli, ex-women's national team, Peter Hattrup, and no, Peter never nutmegged me either, but he was a little younger. Yeah, I understand that, Pete. That's fair enough. Did you hear that? You got to play to get nutmeg. Okay. That's another conversation and a beer. So we want to celebrate our chair people and as well as our graphics wizard, Kelsey Gallo, who's no relation, who does our electronic stuff, which to old people is you can't believe that it's happened. And my wife says, that means you're old, right? You can't understand the technology. Thank God for Kelsey. So she put the backbone to this. And then Leann Johnson, who's doing the video, because on our YouTube channel, if you're afraid you missed something because you had to go to the men's or ladies' room, you'd watch this after the fact. How about that? At no additional charge. So we want to thank all of those people, plus all of the board members who have helped out, et cetera. But more importantly, we want to get to our scholarship presentation. So I'm thinking that Lisa was sitting close by. Maybe I scared her. Oh, she's over there. So Lisa, from our first scholarship fund award, which was in 2019, Rakuro McNeil is going to come up and just give you a moment or two of what that meant for her to get a scholarship to go to the next level. She's going to be joined by her father, because unlike me, who used to be shy, but I gave it up after high school, apparently she still is a little bit sensitive to that. So can you please acknowledge and welcome Lisa. Who was one of the recipients of that first year's effort at awarding scholarships on behalf of legends, a future legend.
Before I start, I'd like to thank Cliff for being a mentor and investing in young people like me. Thank you for the free donuts at Top Pot. I do apologize in advance about my English. English is not my first language. Growing up, I didn't have much of a stable childhood. I moved from Fiji to Cook Islands, then back to Fiji. It was very difficult for myself to adapt due to the change and language barrier. My grandparents raised me up the best they could and taught me the morals and values that I have now. They passed away right before I turned 14, and the same year my mom bought me a one-way ticket to America, where I came as an unaccompanied minor. I spent the first year in Sacramento, where I lived with a friend, then moved to Washington shortly after. In 2017, I enrolled myself in the nearby high school. My first day of high school, we had a fire drill. During that fire drill, a girl named Kayla pulled me by my backpack and asked me if I played soccer. I didn't know what soccer was at the time, but she told me if I could run, that's all her team needed, just a body on the field to complete the team and give them enough time for substitutes. Little did I know I would develop a passion for the sport, and the sport would make a huge impact on my life. Weeks after being introduced to soccer, I walked up to the coach, who's now my dad, and asked him if he could take me in, as I heard from my teammates that he was a foster parent at the time. At the time, I was sleeping on friends' couches and being locked out of the house. My now parents, Mary and Todd McNeil, took me in with open arms and gave me a roof over my head while advocating for me during my beginning years of playing soccer. They gave me a chance to enjoy my last few years of my teen life with structure and unconditional support. The Washington Legends of Soccer Scholarship provided me the experience of attending college without worrying about my school costs, textbooks, and lab fees. This gave me the ability to enjoy soccer and focus on my academics, at the same time volunteering as much as I could to giving back to the community. I currently work as a certified nursing assistant, and this was all made possible through the scholarship that was given to me. I took a couple psychology and sociology courses, and that's what stirred my interest in helping people, which is what I do now. I help people who are suffering mentally and who need help with their daily activities. Through all the changes I had to adapt to through transition, I found one similarity: teamwork. Whether it be back home in the islands or on the soccer field, or even in the soccer community that felt like family, teamwork is what kept everyone to strive for something better. No matter your future, if it's professional soccer, raising a family, or pursuing a new career, teamwork will always be at the forefront. This scholarship gave me the opportunity to learn these lessons while going from teenager to young adult. It is a truly priceless experience. I'm excited to see where this opportunity can also lead the generations to come. Thank you.
Wow. That's why we do this, right? So I want to now introduce the folks that are going to lead us through the scholarship funding for the coming generation. So we have Debbie Barlow and Danny Vaughn, who are going to come up. You all got it when you came in, presumably got an envelope with a bid card, and that's how we're going to make this work. Is they'll start with higher numbers going to lower numbers, and whether you can afford to contribute or not, we appreciate your involvement and hope you can see the benefit of what the Washington State Legends of Soccer does, not just to honor Cliff tonight, because this is important, but to realize there's more to come. So, Danny and Deb.
Lisa, you are absolutely an inspiration. Tremendous. I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. This is kind of a very special part of the thing for me tonight. I was very lucky in receiving a scholarship to the University of Washington. I was on my way on a different road, and it certainly, the partial scholarship that I received certainly changed the trajectory of my life. I had an opportunity to play against Cliff. The University of Washington and Seattle Pacific have a great rivalry, and also to play for Cliff when we went on a trip to the Philippines where we all had a great time, and Cliff was the coach of that. So tonight, we're going to ask you to reach into your wallet, and when you do that, we'd like you to think about the things that people said about Cliff tonight. He's a man that helps people. He's a man that lifts us up. And the opportunity for these kids to go to school that may not have that opportunity without some help from you folks is an opportunity for everybody here to lift somebody up tonight. We thank you all very, very much for your giving tonight. It's going to help a number of kids. Over the years, we've helped some 45 kids attend college at different levels across the United States. We love doing it. It's an extremely important part of our goal in what we do for the community. We cannot do it without your support, and we thank you all very, very much. Let's enjoy the rest of the evening. Cliff, you inspire us all. Thank you, sir.
Okay, moving right along here. We're going to keep the program going. We're getting to the tail end here. All right, so we all know that Cliff has proudly worn the number 47 in games on the coaches' benches for decades. So we want to welcome Seattle Pacific coach Kevin Sakuda and Sounders head coach Brian Smetzer up to the stage, and we are going to present some really cool new shirts for Cliff to wear, and I'm going to present for the Kraken.
You got to get your alma mater first. Kevin, you're first. Go on. That's the important one. That's the important one.
All right, looking pretty good there.
Does it fit? Does it fit? Of course it does. Of course it'll fit.
Looks amazing. Looks amazing. Rave green. It's perfect for where we are right now. I'm partial to the rave green, but this one is so cool. I love the Kraken colors. Check this out. Hold it up. Look at that. So great. All right. Oh.
What's that?
Photo op. Yeah.
Photo op, okay. Okay. You guys hold those up over here. Where's the camera?
All right, well, now we know Cliff has a shirt to wear all the time. Number 47 will always be with us. We'll see him everywhere now, right? So we want to honor you, Cliff. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. You can sit down. You got to rest just a little more. We got a bit to get through. All right, we've come to the stage now. The Honorable Pete Von Reichenbauer, King County Council member. We'd like to bring you up to the stage as well. Thank you, Council member, to come up and speak.
Thank you. Like many of you, I was very pleased to be asked tonight to come here and recognize somebody who is in their 80s, who gives back every day, even in their 80s. Someone who came from another state, but who has championed sports, the sport that they like, and who also had a camp at Fort Casey. Unfortunately, Coach Lenny Wilkins could not be here tonight. Ironically, we have two 80-something-year-olds who actually still give back, and Lenny Wilkins and Cliff are two people who epitomize that kind of giving back, looking back and giving back. It's challenging to get my colleagues on the King County Council to agree to a lot of things, but I'm very pleased that we recognize this gentleman as a person who is a leader, not just in sports, but in humanity. I'm really pleased, and I acknowledged to my colleagues last week when Cliff came before us that, they talk about horse racing being the sport of kings, soccer is the sport of the people. And he has been one of those people who have made soccer a sport that can be found in any small town, any big town. I recently talked to a mutual friend of his and mine, Bert Cole, and believe me, those of you who love Seahawks and love the Lumen Field, it would not be here without Cliff. It would not be here. Seahawks. So Cliff, you have been the coach. We've heard all the acknowledgments tonight of all the championships, all the awards, all the recognitions. Just please, let's give him a standing ovation for this gentleman who gives back, looks back, and gives back.
All right. Well, we also have received this letter from Olympia. So it reads in part, Your dedication to the sport and to the development of young athletes is truly commendable. The impact you have made on the soccer community in Washington and beyond is immeasurable. And this honor is a well-deserved recognition of your lifelong commitment to excellence. Signed, Governor Jay Inslee. So our final presentation tonight comes from Fred Mendoza on behalf of the Seattle 2026 World Cup organization. Fred, we'd like to welcome you up to the stage.
All right, I know everybody wants to leave. We spent the last 2 hours, more or less, talking about this guy's past. What I want to know is, what have you done for us lately? I'm going to answer that question. I'm here on behalf of Seattle 2026 to offer you the job opportunity of your lifetime. Now, before you say no, I want to remind you that I told these folks that you have never, ever said no to me. All right? All right. All right. So on behalf of the World Cup Organizing Committee of Seattle, I want to invite you to become a World Cup ambassador. In this job, you will be led, I have one. I've got one. Led by none other than a legend in NFL Super Bowl productions, Gary Wright. Gary Wright. And you will get to hang out with more or less 20 of your best pals from time to time, maybe down at Lumen Field, eating chicken fingers and French fries and very expensive Rainier beer. Yeah. I wanted to negotiate your salary for all of this, but they told me the salary is not negotiable. I misunderstood it. It's negligible. Right? So on behalf of all of these folks, we would love to have you join us in doing this. Okay, for legal reasons, you have to nod your head or say yes.
I'd be honored. Thank you so much.
I guess Christmas comes in October for Cliff. That's amazing. Well, we've been waiting all night, right, to hear from this guy, so I'm just going to give the mic right over to him. I'm kind of going to say a bunch of spiel into this because you're that amazing guy, and I don't want to eat up any of your time here.
I'd prefer you stay up here with me and just smile. Anybody down there have a glass of water at their table that hasn't been used? Since I've been up here for a good, how many, 4 or 5 hours? In case I need it. My first thought is, are there any questions? What's that? I can do that. I think the first thing you should understand is that I'm shocked because all my life I've officiated at a number of celebrations of life, of funerals, and I've always said that the number of people that will show up at my funeral will be directly related to the weather. So I'm shocked, but I'm also honored and pleased that you're here. But I want to thank you all for helping put in place the future leases, because your money is not going to any of us. Your money is going to find additional people that we can pull out of the streets and put in their higher education pursuits and other families. So the big applause that I'm going to ask you to give is for yourself. All right? On 3. 1, 2, 2.5. Applause.
it. We landed the plane. We are here now. Hey, thank you to everyone. See, Clifford McCrath, this is your night. Thank you so much to everyone who came. Washington State Legends of Soccer, Frank MacDonald for putting this program on and staying behind the scenes here. I'll leave you with this, as Pele said, success is no accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, sacrifice, and most of all, love of what you're doing. And that is what Cliff is about. Thank you guys. Drive safe. And we hope to see you again real soon.
I'm Steve Freeble. Fall of 1968, I met Cliff at Spring Arbor College in Michigan. Played left back for him for 3 years, and he coached us to a number 4 NAIA ranking. Then he did the Seattle Skedaddle. When I moved to the left coast, I worked at Northwest Soccer Camp for 4 years as a coach and a counselor. Eventually, I became the co-program director with Aunt Beverly, Aunt Deb. Eventually, God directed me to become the Northwest Soccer Camp Wake Up Fairy Chicken, and I did that until I decided to be a normal person and take these things called vacations. One of the best jobs is waking up 300 to 400 kids and staff every morning at 6:45 a.m. in bad costumes with a boom box that played loud, bad music. The best wake-ups were Friday mornings because everyone was exhausted, so they got the bad fairy chicken playing the loud music on the boom box. By the way, I apologize to any of you, your parents, your kids, anybody you know that have been scarred and traumatized with this wonderful and unique experience. For 12 years, I worked with the absolute best people who served as FMOCs, CITs, counselors, coaches, assistant program directors, as well as those few who we could never quite figure out what you were doing at camp in the first place. Bernie, Verhees, Amundsen, you know who you are. You taught me to be caring, patient, and just plain nice. You always forced me to be creative and to think differently, and I used all of this while being an alternative high school principal. Thank you. And then there's my Staff A roomie, Uncle Cliff, Uncle Nubby, Nubs, Knucklehead, Uncle Knothead, Large Beavis. From the Spring Arbor College Mud Bowl through my camp days, you were my mentor. Yep, you're getting the blame for this, buddy. And now that my therapist, parole officer, and personal injury attorney know the truth, you'll be hearing from them in a few days. You taught me to think out of the box, off the table, onto the floor, down the hall, out the door, down the street, around the block, and downtown. You taught me to push, poke, prod, and to follow opponents, teammates, and total strangers with only love and respect in my heart, and to stay committed to whatever I started until it was finished and done right. And the singularly most important thing you taught me was always take care of my people. You allowed and encouraged me to say things to our staff like this: if you think that this camp is only about soccer, pack your crap and go home right now. Well, it's 4 a.m. and this fairy chicken has got to go wake up a bunch of old people here at the facility. They get up early and it takes time and a while for them to find their teeth, their walkers, hearing aids, and bearings. Say, can I get you to show up sometime? Tell the true story of the nub. You know, the one that always ended with, ah! You got to be there kind of early because, at least by 4 a.m., because they're in bed by 6:45. Kimosabe, Large Beavis.
Uncle Nubby, another organization honoring you. Amazing. Hopefully it didn't cost you as much as the last one, but I wish I could be there, but we play in LA, so I couldn't be there. I've enjoyed not only competing against you, but the friendship for over the years. Competing against you wasn't that fun because we only beat you once, but it was a good one. 2002 went on to win the national championship, but you had our number many times. Appreciate the friendship. Hopefully there's a good crowd there, and hopefully people are taking the you-know-what out of you. Look forward to seeing you soon. And remember, when all else fails, if you need help, I'm Batman!
We just wanted to say congratulations. We are so proud that you're being awarded this honor,
and we can't wait to celebrate with you. You've been such an important part of our family's life from the Northwest Soccer Camp days, and you truly are the brother that my sister and I never had. So thank you so much for being such an important part of our family's life.
What an honor for you. It's really a pleasure to be able to contribute to this video tribute for your life and your career. Such a successful soccer player and coach. So many achievements. I can't even begin to count them off. But some of the best memories I have is, number one, competing against your teams, which were always difficult games. Secondly, playing against you in First Division, which was a thrill because you were this person that I had held in such high esteem as a coach and so successful as a coach, and then to be able to be on the pitch and compete against you was really an honor. I just wanted to congratulate you once again. You've made a huge difference in the soccer community in the city of Seattle and the state of Washington. We could never thank you enough for the impact that you've had. So thank you, God bless you, and wishing you all the best.
I first met Cliff when he came to Hawaii. We were in high school and he was recruiting my best friend, John Richardson, to go to Seattle Pacific. We set up a small-sided game that Cliff played along with, and it was one of the favorite games I've ever played because Cliff makes everything fun. Same goes for when I interviewed him, when I got to hang out with him at coaches' conventions, when I called him up to get some soccer background information. Every single time he brought a smile to my face, he made me laugh, he made me feel better about the world and soccer as a sport. Cliff, thank you for that. Thank you for doing what soccer people should do, is always remember that this is a game, that it's fun, that it brings joy, and I love you, Cliff.
There's so much to say about this guy. Championship soccer coach, terrific speaker, sought after all over the country, charming personality, good looking. Let's see, co-host of Nub's Nuggets with me, all about soccer and the Sounders, disguised as Clark Kent, reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fighting for truth, justice, and the American way. Okay, sorry about that. Great soccer coach, good friend. Cliff, have a terrific, oh, by the way, ageless, never looks any older. Of course, that's when I don't have my glasses on. Cliff, congratulations. Have a great night.
I first encountered Coach McCrath in 1976 when I was a sophomore at Centralia High School and playing for our new soccer club. And he was already well known to our coaches down there, and they called him and seeking more knowledge on coaching skills and tactics for youth, and specifically our team. Cliff agreed to come down with a carload of players 90 miles south, and they both taught and scrimmaged with us. And I remember it being the first time I was instructed how to properly position a defensive wall on free kicks. 8 years later, both Cliff and I were at a media gathering in Seattle, and he had met me when I worked for the Sounders, and he asked if I'd be interested in the sports information job at Seattle Pacific. 2 weeks later, I got the job, and we went on to work together for 23 great years. Became more than just colleagues, but very good friends. And I remember our first car ride together in a Lincoln Town car, of course. He asked me to name 12 world cities with more than 1 million people that began with the letter M. In 1991, I asked Cliff if he'd perform the christening of our son, 3-month-old Kyle. It would be with 30 family members, and Nubber asked me on the way down about their names, their relation. And when we arrived, I started introducing him when he interrupted, and he soon took over. And he flawlessly knew everyone's name and really put a special touch on the whole christening. In 2019, Cliff was among our guests at Kyle's wedding. So others will share what it was like to work with Cliff, to play for or against him, and so on. But I want to thank him for so many contributions and kindnesses to me and my family for which we can only pay forward. So thanks for everything, Cliff.
Thank you for all the years that you've put in and all the years of being a worthy opponent. I've won against you, I've tied you, and I've lost to you. And the winning was a lot more fun, but anyway, you made it fun anyway. And we had some great times. You at SPU, me at UW, Latvia Football Club, you at MA Segadelli, Mueller Barons, and just so many good matches that we had for 20 plus years. So anyway, thanks for all the memories, pal, and we'll see you down the road. Take care.
Cliff and I faced each other's teams in the Northwest Collegiate Soccer Conference in the 1970s and 80s when he led Seattle Pacific and I coached at the University of Puget Sound in Tacoma and later the University of Washington. When I was at UPS, I remember accompanying Cliff on a trip to Oregon State where he pitched their athletic director, and he did most of the talking, on the merits of adding men's soccer as a varsity program and joining our conference. While it took Oregon State years to make it happen, it was Cliff's vision and conviction which planted the seed of expanding college soccer in the Northwest. But we know Cliff went far beyond growing college soccer during our lean times of the thankfully distant past. Tonight, we also celebrate his influence on the thousands of players who attended Northwest Soccer Camp throughout its half-century of history. His success wasn't just helping players move up to college or professional levels, but also richly impacting their lives. We've all shared the challenges and joy of hard work to become better players and to create successful teams, lessons which serve us well in our personal and professional lives. So whether you played our beautiful game, coached, refereed, or guided as an administrator or parent, let's salute Cliff's incredible contribution to our lives and our beautiful game.
Cliff, over the past 40 years, you have had an impact on my life and really changed the course of my life in many ways through you being my coach, mentor, second father figure, friend. And I'm so grateful for that. One of the things that we all know about you is your boisterous voice and us knowing that when you're in the room, we know you're there. But one of the things that a lot of people don't know about is the quiet way that you have cared for, loved, and shared your faith with hundreds and hundreds of people. And I'm just so excited that I get to share this night celebrating you.